I'd be so grateful if you could give me a response to the following 3 options. So what I did here is that I used 1, 2, 3 as price, other solution, or not the right timing. And I'm looking forward to 1, 2, 3. And what she replied was, "Dear Eric, thanks, but it's mostly price at this time." So then I knew, thanks to leveraging feedback from the no, what was the problem. So then I can all of a sudden do something about it, you know? And so I did. Thank you for letting me know. We're very interested in working with you, and I've therefore attached a revised pricing plan. And boom! Thank you. We're interested in setting up a pilot, and they are now a full-blown customer. So just keep doing this in case you have troubles turning a no into yes.
Great.
Pretty good.
Nice, yeah, great.
You don't have to applaud.
Yeah. This reminds me of your thing though about asking people, like validating the assumptions with data. So if you're tracking like why you're losing deals in the CRM, then sales guys can be like, it's too expensive, like if we can give them the deal, but if people say, you know, like the structure of the app, or it's missing a button or something. But asking that's super smart, because then you can figure out why you're actually losing the deal.
Yeah.
You could have thought it was price, but maybe it was a feature or something.
And it could also be that they said they went with a competitor that's offering solution X, and then at least I can tell my development team we would have had them had we had that solution or whatever. So indeed,
super good. Yeah.
But that brings, it's a perfect link, because that brings us to what if they actually say yes and actually sign up with Oki. Shamil, right?
Yeah.
You asked us about a CRM system, so there are tons of them out there. We're using one called Nimble. What Nimble does is that when I drag and drop a deal into Nimble and I say that we won this deal, Nimble is actually asking me, why did you win?
Yeah.
And you can of course do this in a Google Drive sheet or whatever, but the important thing is that you make sure that your customer success team knows why they signed on with Oki. Because Oki, and I'm sure that all of your solutions, it's one, you know, you're solving maybe one problem, but it's a lot of different aspects to that problem. And for a customer, if you're solving one problem, he doesn't necessarily give a shit if another part of the solution doesn't work so well for him. So it's really important for the customer success team to know why a customer said yes. Yeah.
It's actually quite easy for me to implement CRM to myself, but actually when it comes to explaining it to a different person, you come into a problem where they just don't really put all the sales inside of the CRM system. And I'm trying to avoid that kind of thing, that they just write down why they win and what did they do during the day, which made our sale actually successful, which brought the profit to the company. And for CRM systems, it's more about registering it so that at the end of the year, we know how much we made in sales, how much we paid in taxes, and we deliver it in the balance sheet.
No, I disagree. I think a CRM system is much more in terms of logging, like behavior and important needs for certain types of customers. That's at least how I use it. And the financial sheet, yeah, that's something our accountant can look at. For me, this is way more important. So, an example, like you just put down the reason why the deal was won. I have to agree, like admit, in the beginning we didn't do this. And then we sit with customers after some point and we look at it and we're like, hey, so many guests are using Oki for feedback. And then it turns out what they're interested in is in revenues. So like a part of Oki is doing super well, but the other one isn't, and that's the one that matters. So that's why it's important to keep an eye on it. So the other part is then listening to your success team. So you can actually see that my presentation is going very far away from sales, but it is because like all of our different elements within the company is so much related to sales because it inflates everything. So I like to ask our customer success team, like, what do they say about the new customer? Is the customer asking questions during the onboarding process that I could have explained during the sales process? And the third one is super important, like, are their expectations level? Because this goes back to under-promising and over-delivering. If there are certain things that a new customer for your solutions has to do, then just be open and honest with it. If you're open and honest with it in the beginning, then they will just they won't care when they're experiencing problems after. Yeah.
So You now said that maybe the salesperson explained in a different way what you're explaining to the new customer when he's already on board. So now my question is, how do you design the pitch so that, I mean, how do you have to manage the pitch as well so that they would say the same thing? Because I see that different people present the same company, the same product, the same service in different ways, because of course our personality is very different, right?
Yeah.
So especially when you're in a startup, you have like 2 or 3 or 4 founders, and sometimes you're in the same with all 4 of them. You're in a networking event and you talk to all of them, and in the end you don't know that you were pitched the same product
Okay.
by 4 different people from the same team.
Yeah. Like, okay, so
So
first
that
of all-
happens with the founders, but you can imagine that the
Yeah.
sales is going to be a lot different than the ones already in the onboarding process.
I think it's all just about making clear that some things are just has to be super down look and has to be like super like A to B. This is how we do a training. This is what normally new prospects complain about when we do a training because it's cumbersome. Like we have a problem with integrating with the hotel systems. We don't have a problem, but it always takes forever for that system to go backwards. And if I know that if we're just open about that delay that we're pretty sure gonna happen,
You're going
then
to have the
hotels
sales.
don't care
Yeah.
because then they know about it. But if we have a sales guy who's telling them, hey, this is gonna take a week, and it ends up taking 2 months because the
Yeah.
delay there, then we have a huge problem. So for me as a founder, it's more about, okay, make sure you always say that that's gonna take that long. And then they're just expecting it, and then it's fine. And then if it takes 1 month instead of 2, it's actually a good thing. Yeah.
So you're saying that you're actually designing the sales pitch so that, yeah.
Not necessarily, like, I can enjoy that we have 3 founders, and we actually explain the product very differently, but it's like the same kind of concept. It's just in different words. Like
Mhm.
our technical founder will explain it very technically, I will explain it very passionately, someone else will very business-wise. But for some things, you just have to explain it exactly the same. It's just facts, essentially.
And you also get different leads and different feedback, so therefore,
Yeah, well, if you're just honest that the setup is going to take 2 months based on what system you're having, then that's fine. It's just a number, actually.
In the beginning, you told us that you were over-promising hotels what they could expect.
No, the other way around.
Oh, yeah, no, but like you give us advice on not to do that because you over-promise.
Yeah.
What do you do when you have, because in the beginning you're very enthusiastic, so you did do the over-promising and now the venue's not that happy or the hotel's not that happy that you couldn't deliver.
Yeah.
How do you turn that no into a yes?
Well, that hardly ever became a no. That just became a hassle because we had to fix whatever I had promised. So that was just a pain in the ass for my team, not liking how I did sales because I overpromised. And then it just, how it ended up was just like what you showed, pictures of the 4:53 a.m. that people had to sit and work very late because I had overpromised the feature that we didn't have. So you just, in the end, the team just went together, okay, screw it, let's just do it. We're all gonna benefit from it, having it anyway, in a week we won't care. But I know it's not like a sustainable thing to do.
The only thing I would add, having a background in like consultative sales for like building custom apps, is if I involved the software developers that I worked with in the sales process, they realized it was really hard, and I learned about building the shit, which was also really hard.
Yeah.
So we built this kind of mutual respect, and to them it was kind of incredible that if like we had a lead to build an app that would have been ridiculous, and instead of me closing the deal, maybe they had the budget, but if they were like, man, this is impossible, or they're just an asshole, like I don't want to work with them.
Yeah.
And for me to turn away that deal, because I involved them in the sales process. And to your question, if there's some kind of like internal doc that has like a tweetable like elevator pitch, or like a shorter one that's like almost like a text message, or like a longer email one, and if that's like living in a Google Doc where like everyone in the organization like knows like what that elevator pitch is, because that changes, and there's stuff like you guys were selling or would be selling or haven't sold yet or have or would or whatever, like that's always kind of living and breathing. But if someone's able to copy and paste from that like internal playbook, then at least what the sales guy or the customer success person is putting in that email is the same words, potentially. Yeah. Anyway.
You could also make like a, it's called like a fact sheet. You know, this is your onboarding process. It will take 2 months, blah, blah, blah. And then it's completely clear. unless someone messes up.
There's no typos, 6
Yeah,
months.
exactly. Yeah, so okay, but this is then an example of one hotel that went live last year, and if you do a good job in under-promising, the results are just wonderful. Like, oh wow, J, why is that? Why does all smiles become a J? That's weird, but that's what it is,
It
so that's
does,
actually a smile. Yeah.
But sorry, if your competitors are over-promising, you kind of have to deal with that, right?
No.
Because otherwise they put their feet into the business, and then they have the customer.
Yeah, but then they
And
screw
then
up.
they can still, they still can fix it, but if you're under-promising and you know, you are not raising your stakes that high, then who is left for you?
Yeah, but you're not under-promising by nature. You're asking open questions as to what are they satisfied with, and that will be your bar. So, like I said before, if I know that they will get at least 8 times their money back with my solution, and they say they're happy with 6 times the money back, then I say, okay, that's fine. We'll make that happen. And then they sign, and then they end up getting 15 times their money back. Then they're really, really happy. So it's not like you have to say from the start, we will make sure you get 8 times your money back. You will ask them first, and then they will basically set the bar for you. You see the difference? Not really? Because what your competitors will start doing when they're over-promising all the time is that after a while you cannot deliver when you over-promise.
Yeah, no,
So they will shoot themselves in the foot and actually you will probably see that a lot of their customers will be very nice ones for you to call in a couple of months, because you notice that they can't deliver on the promises.
Especially if you see that your lead signs with those guys, like this lady that was worried about the pricing and maybe she went with a cheaper alternative. Still set a reminder to follow up in 3 to 6 months and be like, hey, I saw you guys just did whatever.
Yeah.
Thought to check in and see how it's going with so and so.
Mm.
And be like, oh shit, they said they could do all this stuff and they can't do it, then it's
Exactly. Yeah.
you're
No, I
at least
mean,
checking in.
If it comes to numbers, of course you have to calculate correctly, and you cannot just make up something. But there are also those soft products, right, which you can offer,
Like
which are
support
not
and
really
stuff like that?
scalable. And then I think
Yeah.
you might overpromise a bit. But
Yeah.
this is maybe just how I would do that. If it comes to products which are not really scalable, if it's an experience, for example,
Okay.
you always want to overpromise a bit,
Yeah.
maybe, because if it's not scalable, you can actually, I think.
What if the customer says, I expect 10 times the
money
value.
back.
Yeah, like above what I know I can get.
Above your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
We'll
get
fix
it already?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You also get those, yeah. But very few, maybe like 5%.
Well, what's your response then?
That we'll try to reach that. Yeah, and that we haven't. I will then go into all the things that we have. With Oki, when you sign with Oki, you have an optimization coach. Her only job is to make sure that as many guests as possible is using your Oki. They optimize the deals, the content, the variables, when to communicate with your guests. We know exactly how to tweak your Oki in order to reach 10 times return on investment. I can't guarantee it at this point, but put us in place, and within 3 months, I'm confident that we will be very close. Something like that.
Sorry. What's your mark?
Jacob first, yeah?
Don't you think you have a responsibility as someone who really knows your business and the business of your clients to educate your client in terms of what's really possible, and that 10 times is obviously out of reach?
But it's not out of reach.
Well, but if it is,
Oh, if it's definitely out of reach, but then I will just say, hey, we won't reach that.
all right, okay.
And to be honest, we've had lower pricing on our product, and then some hotels are making like 35 times the money back, and then we're like, yeah, we should price it higher, They also tell us that, yeah. So, yeah.
Which titles would you advise to the starting marketers to read about startups and marketing?
What, like books?
Yeah.
Oof, I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't read that.
Just keep coming to Sales Hackers.
Yeah, no, really. No, but I think this is fucking awesome. Sorry for saying fucking. It's church, right? I think it's really great what you guys are doing. Seriously. I never went to events like this when we started Oki, and I told you before, I think we probably made mistakes that we wouldn't have had to if I had gone here. So I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. Okay, let's move on. Okay, you've had the sale with a potential customer, you've turned them into a customer, you've onboarded them successfully, and now they've been your customer for a whole month. A whole month. What we do with Oki is we send them an Oki app where they actually share feedback about their experience with Oki. And that concerns everything. The communication, the setup, what features they deem are most important, etc., etc. It's really nice way for you to keep track. I mean, you don't have to do it like we do it, but as long as you have something in place that after month 1, you're actually capturing feedback across all of your different touch points with which you're interacting with the customer. And for you to really see, okay, so the communication with desk bookers and our customers are not up to par. What specifically in the communication can we improve? And you also see that after already month 1, some hotels will be happier with another feature of desk bookers than they were anticipating to be happy with, which is also interesting. So you would see like, yeah, because maybe now you're launching in Finland, it's a completely different market than Holland, so it's hard to anticipate the Finns. They like sauna and what kind but so what we ask are a bunch of questions, and what we see is that the hotels are actually really happy about this. But I mean, now I sound like a genius for doing this, or maybe not, but it's a good thing that we do it. But we didn't always do this. And the reason we started with this was because we lost our first 2 hotels. And when we lost them, to us it was like a mystery, because we have this dashboard where we see all the participation rates from all the guests, how many guests are using what feature, etc. And the 2 hotels that we lost, the very first hotels that we lost, they were one of the most best performing hotels in our portfolio. And we were like, what the hell, how can we lose them? They're doing so good. And then we called them up and we asked, why do you quit? And then we understood that it's not about the numbers and the participation rates that we see on the dashboard, it's about the perceived value that they have of your solution. So we put in place to do all of this to every single customer, and even do personal feedback calls every month to the hotels. And we then saw that some hotels which were underperforming like a lot compared to others, they were actually happier than some of the ones that did a really good job. So it's all perception. And remember that some of your customers, which you think aren't like necessarily performing super well, they have no idea how your other hotels or customers are performing. So they don't have like necessarily a benchmark unless you show them. So it's all about perception. So keep in mind to just talk to them a lot, I think. And so yeah, so personally I don't like cold calling anymore. As all of you, I had to hustle in the beginning. I still hustle, but I do it differently. And I found that by asking for referrals, it's by far the best way for me to get new leads. So what I do now is that instead of cold calling, I just email and contact all of our customers and I ask them, what am I saying here? I wanted to ask if you know some hotels in Amsterdam you think I should contact. And then, no problem, Eric, I will try to help you. And then all of a sudden, 3 to 5 new leads are coming in. And not everyone is giving me leads. Some are even responding, no, nobody else should use Oki, like that, you know. But at least 25-30% are. So for every 10 new customers, 3 or 5 of them will give me 5 leads each. So that's like 15 leads that I can just call on. And then this gentleman here, I will for sure email again in half a year, because he will meet new people and so on. And then what I do is I never ask him or her to introduce me. I just call them right away and say that I got your number from blah, 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 at hotel blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, we know each other. And then you just have a super nice conversation. So it's just a way that is very easy, as long as you have a customer base, to just stop doing cold calls. Yeah?
As referrals are so important, how do you thank one who's like giving you the referral?
Okay, good. So this guy here that gave me 5 leads, I already signed one of them. So what I do immediately when they sign is that I let him know. And he responds like, wow, that's awesome. And so that's one thing, I guess, just keeping them in the loop. But also in general, it's just, I think, just about being a nice person. We have our office at a hotel, which is called the Good Hotel. They are basically like hiring people that haven't had the opportunity to be in the workplace for very long. So they take them in, train them for 3 months, and then they need to go to other hotels. So what I did was that I found the people that I think are the most charming, and I then recommend them to people like him, because they're good people, and all hotels are looking for good people. So I try to just help him with other things, than necessarily, I mean, they already use the product, so.
One more question about the
Yeah.
same topic. So that's being a nice person, and I think that's kind of giving the favor back.
Helping,
Yeah. Of course, referrals in the internet world is much more than just being a nice person. It's also, you know, you can actually get a nice commission from referrals. Do you get these kind of customers that, you know, would only refer you if they get 5% cut on 5% discount on the next subscription?
No,
You have
next, I'll request a beer when you have time.
I'll get you beer, yeah, and we're a little behind schedule, so just.
Yeah, okay, super quick.
Sorry.
Yes, it happens. It happens. It actually happened from one of our hotels, and he was like a little bit sneaky about it, to be honest. And I didn't end up. Thank you.
Anybody else want a beer?
Yeah, you have to tell me if I am supposed to speed up. But
Yeah, a little bit.
I was reluctant to do it. And they are still, I mean, it's more beneficial for us if they just keep recommending without getting anything in return, right? So, as long as I can, I will just keep stalling that one and then see. But we also have partnerships, and they, of course, they have kickback on everything that they sell. But that's different. But sometimes you will get that, and then you will just have to assess it situation by situation, I think. Okay, guys, let's speed it up. Here's another one. Other ways to use feedback. So I do a lot of presentations. I really love presenting. So Tobias, thanks again for inviting me. I put this in here because I like to ask for feedback about the presentations when I'm talking to hotels, or my potential customers. So this is a girl that is the GM of a hotel here in Amsterdam, and she walked up to me after the presentation and said, "Eric, this sounds super interesting. Please come by and do a presentation, blah, blah, blah." And then I also asked her, okay, so what feedback do you have on my presentation? And she blanked at the spot. So then I realized it's probably easier to just send that on LinkedIn the day after and ask for feedback. So I did, and she came back with this. And some of it is feedback on, presentation skills, which is of course super nice. But in terms of hacking sales, this is nice. What I also liked is the part of solving guest problems before they actually have them. So that tells me that she's interested in a specific solution of Oki, which is proactively solving guest problems before they know they even have them. So when I go and I meet this hotel, I'm going to push on that because I know that's very interesting for her. So that's another way for you guys to leverage feedback if you have presentations or meet potential customers. And another one is Corendon. So this is something that I didn't even know I did this, but it happened to me. This is the last slide, by the way. Okay, we just like you do NPS when you recommend, we also do that, but we also do like other touch points for guests to review their stay. One can be like, okay, what is your overall opinion about your room? And then the scale goes from much worse than expected up to much better than expected. And when I had a demo with Corendon Hotels, they told me, this is a cool scale because next week there's a huge convention in Amsterdam, and everyone staying in our hotel is paying 270 euros a night. And 2 weeks ago, there was nothing happening in Amsterdam, and the same room cost 70 euros. Huge price difference. So they were interested in our scale to look at the difference in expectations by the difference in paying so much for the rooms. And that is exactly what I copy now when I go on demo. So every single demo after that, since 2 weeks, I've said exactly this. And what I see is that they trust me because it's like one of their colleagues, in the same industry that told it to me, and it just comes out of my mouth, but it's actually him talking. But what I then realized was that the first time I did it, and that was by accident, I just had this Corendon pen. So they looked at it, oh yeah, there it is. And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. So now I always do that as well. So here it is. So then they really get a feeling like it's true. And it is true, but it's just like enforcing it. So that's something else. Maybe, I don't know. It can be helpful. But so, to sum up, I hope you guys see that there's really a true cycle in terms of all your various departments, from getting someone interested in your solution to selling it to nurturing them to becoming a loyal customer and eventually being live. And give it up for Tobias and John. Thank you for joining us.
So yeah, we're a little behind schedule, but that was super good. Thank you for coming out and presenting. That was really fun. So,
Yeah, you're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Next speaker, Joella, I met actually at the next one last year. Go ahead.
There's one thing, there's a phone going off here for like 8 times, 9 times over there. I don't know if it's maybe important or somebody, just so you know. There's a phone over here that's going off all the time, so I don't know.
That is a good point.
Or somebody's like,
Usually it's like this car, move your car,
well,
move your mouth.
Probably salesperson, right?
Yeah, we'll take a, if you guys, I delivered some beers, but maybe we take a moment.
Sure, yeah.
I think it's been, yeah. Take
5 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.